Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another FSI DFS Premier League Slate Breakdown. It's been a while since my last one. I didn't realize how much of a gap there was between now and the last kind of big bunch of Premier League games. So I'm happy to get back into it. I had a good time over the FA Cup period and the EFL Cup. Found it a lot of fun and really enjoyed it. I did cores all throughout that time and covered all kinds of different minor soccer leagues, whether it be League MX or Championship or whatever DraftKings had to offer. I covered in our FSI Soccer Discord room, which you can find the link below. It's no longer free, unfortunately, but we do good work there, and I hope you check us out. All right, but now into the slate breakdown. So we got a 5-gamer here. It's slightly staggered. We have 15 minutes of having all the lineups, but I know a lot of people will struggle to kind of be able to take advantage of all those. But we'll go through them all, and and on my Discord or our Discord, I will still have a core a little bit earlier, a prelim core, and I'll update it whether there's changes in lineups. But let's just look at each of the player pool and potential starting lineups first. Oh, I think I have it here. So Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, minus 250 on the slate. Biggest favorites. For set pieces, they've just been all over the place, Arsenal, and now that they've had kind of a longer break, I think they'll potentially even change even more. In terms of set pieces, last game it was Rice and Saka splitting, although we saw Trossard instead of Martinelli, so we are not sure if Rice will take over Martinelli now. So it's a bit of just a mess, really. Odegaard could even take. I assume Saka and Martinelli would be my guess, though. For Nottingham Forest, Gibbs White hasn't been playing, but he should he start. And I think if it was this lineup, we'd probably see Toffolo split with them. So like a Gibbs White Toffolo split, I'd predict on Nottingham Forest. It could be a Gibbs White monopoly, though. Still pretty fresh, so not 100% sure what his sets will look like. For Fulham, Pereira monopoly, and Garner McNeil split. We've seen Andre Gomez play sometimes, and he's taken over Garner in the past, so he might take with McNeil if we see a lineup with both of them. In terms of their odds, what are they? They're both plus in that game. Brighton are minus favorites, Crystal Palace. So yeah, that's the only game that's not having a minus favorite, so it's a little bit scarier to pick from. That's usually like those more lopsided games for players you want. Brighton Luton, Doughty, he's definitely the best play, I'd say, of the people who are on plus odds teams because he's just a monopoly set taker. He just crosses an open play like crazy, gets pretty forward in the attack, even though he starts at left wing back. Even though Brighton are a possession team, Doughty will still have chances to get up and just cross whenever he can. In the first game of the season, we saw Luton, Brighton play each other, and Giles was starting there and taking. I think he had like 14 crosses or something. Like Luton can definitely get forward against Brighton, especially at home where they press a lot. Like I think Doughty's a pretty interesting play for this slate. Brighton, Gross and Estupinian split now. Gross monopoly been in the past, but now Estupinian has started to split, and he's become a really intriguing option. Crystal Palace Sheffield. I don't know Elise's exact status. He's doubtful, but I read somewhere that he could be in the squad, which would scare me a little bit since in this lineup it'd be an Eze Monopoly, and I love that play. He might be my favorite play on the slate. Like he had like 20 points or something against Arsenal and just floor, and Sheffield is no Arsenal, so he should be doing a lot better on paper there. For Sheffield United in this lineup, Palmer Monopoly, we could see Norwood and he might take a sprinkle. But if it's this team, Palmer everything. Ben Brereton Diaz is a guy I'd love. He's a Chilean international, and I don't think he speaks a word of Spanish, but he embraced the Chilean culture by just adding Diaz to his name because that's his mother's name. I think that's pretty awesome. For Aston Villa Newcastle, Douglas Luiz and McGinn split might most likely, maybe a bit of Bailey. Unai Emery is another coach who kind of mixes up his set pieces a lot. I think they got a specific set piece coach where they do different stuff. We'll see him do a lot of weird short corner routines and all kinds of things. Like Aston Villa are just not a super friendly pick set piece takers and hope for the best team. But McGinn and Douglas Luiz are arguably their best two players anyway, and Ollie Watkins. So you just take them for what they are, which is penalty kicks and for Luiz and like open play value. But I've never been that big of a fan of picking from them. I think this is a hard game to pick from. For Newcastle, Kieran Trippier Monopoly. He came off with a bit of a knock last cup game, but I think he'll probably be fine. He's always been typically a plug. On this slate, I'm not sure how much I love him, since Aston Villa's a tough place to go. And Newcastle had so many games, I'm not sure exactly how much energy they have in the tank left. But those are their sets. In terms of prices, Saka, most expensive player on the slate. It's probably the best play on the slate. Like he's not had even that great of a year, and he's still dropping just insane numbers. I think he's probably first guy in 90% of your builds, whether that be cash or GPP. Brighton, with gross splitting, I kind of think he's a fade. Like he had 11.5 against Wolves. Brighton literally were dominated that whole game. He still only had a 12. When he had Monopoly, you'd see him have double those points easily. But now with the Stupinian splitting, I think he's a little much for what he is now. Crystal Palace as a Monopoly, if there's no Elise, if there is, it'll be a split. But like I love these numbers. I think this is a great play. Ollie Watkins, 9,500. I don't know if this is the slate for me. He's probably an interesting GPP play. I don't think I have a ton of ownership with how many games are on this slate and how many good forward options there are. João Pedro has just been the best. Like, he's just been insane. It's 17-4 against Wolves. He takes penalties. He has a hat trick, I think, in the cup game. Like, he's just been incredible. I don't know if I'll get there, but I feel like people will go to him. Gabriel Jesus, I feel like he's a little expensive for this. He hasn't been scoring a ton. I'm looking at assists against Palace on 5-0, which is pretty poor from him. So I don't know if I'll get there for him. Leon Bailey, that's way too much for him, I think. Not interested in that. Dwight McNeil, for 8,300, that's not bad. But like I said, he's on like the 50-50 game of the slate. And I just don't know if I see enough upside there compared to the other guys. Martinelli, 7,800, I think that's a pretty good play. With like 27 points in 20 minutes against Crystal Palace. He gets subbed a lot, which is my issue with him, but potential set pieces and high upside, I think he's a pretty good play in cash even. Gibbs White, I'm not interested in. Nottingham Forest are probably going to park the bus, and I don't see him getting a ton of chances to get points. Williams, too. If we see no Pereira for some reason, whether it be through rotation, like I wouldn't be surprised if any of these teams rotate. They've had a lot of cup games, most of them. Like Fulham, especially, they had that semifinal against Liverpool, had the FA Cup games. So like Fulham could rotate, and we might see some value chances at sets like Willian for 7K, which is not bad. Evan Ferguson, if he plays, and Diaby, both of them are not bad pieces for that much. There's a lot of ceiling punts you can really go here, I find, in this range. Same with Ishak. When was last time we saw a sub 7K Ishak? I think it might be, oh, he had one time against West Ham where he had 26 points, if that's a sign. So that price for Ishak, I don't think is that bad. I just don't love that Villa game like I talked about the Edward, if he is in, I think it's a pretty good GPP play. Pair him with Eze. I really like Palace against Sheffield. I think they should be higher favorites than they are. So I don't mind that. These Newcastle prices are so crazy considering how good they've been for most of this season. But Aston Villa are minus favorites just because I feel like even the odds makers see that this team looks tired potentially. But they've been starting that same lineup every game. They've not looked that fatigued, so it'd be worth a punt for only 5,900. DCL I don't love. There's my Brereton. I'm punting him in a team probably with Homer and like a one-off Sheffield stack GPP build, but nothing more than that, even though he's my boy. If Carlos Vinicius starts for Fulham, that's not that bad. You punt the 4K forwards. I don't love the rest of that. Yeah, a lot of good up top forward options though. For mid, talked about all these guys. Olise, there he is questionable. Apparently he's available, but I don't think he'll start, and I don't think he'll get that many minutes. So I'm not really interested in him. Unless he starts, then I might have to cave. Even though if he starts, he's probably not going more than 60 at max, and probably 45. I just don't see him starting though. Odegaard and Trossard. I think Trossard's a little much considering we haven't seen him take set pieces anymore. He got that bailout goal against Palace, but I think Odegaard's probably the better of the two of them for 100 cheaper. He has a solid floor. He plays 90 minutes every game is the big upside of him. So I'd go Odegaard over Trossard. I think Odegaard's not a bad play. There's just so many guys on this slate. Douglas Luiz for 8K. He's just not my cup of tea. He's won people big money though. Like look at this 24 pointer, solid 15s when he wasn't that much. I think it's just too much for him here though. Same with McGinn. Like I think Aston Villa are overpriced here. Newcastle are underpriced, kinda. Kai Havertz is too much. Doughty, good play for 7K. I think he'll be chalky in cash as he should. You just plug him in. You hope for his 11. Like even against these insane possession teams like Liverpool, he's still at 8. It's 17 against Tottenham. Like I like Doughty here. Tielemans too much. Smith Rowe, if he's in by some miracle, is not bad. I just don't see him ever starting. Pereira, this is a solid price for Pereira. I think he's probably the cheapest set taker on the slate. Like, I don't think that's a bad plug. Garner 58. I don't mind that. The top midfielders, I think, are all forward eligible. Gustavo Hammer, 5K. That's a pretty good price. I don't mind him. You can see where he's playing to and make a decision on him. If he's more like an attacking role, a little bit more interested in than if he's a defensive midfielder. Dominguez wasn't in projected. If he somehow plays and there's no Gibbs White, why not? Like that's a cheap price for a set taker. He would be the cheapest set taker on the slate. Zaniolo, God, never Zaniolo. He's just if he starts, he's getting subbed at halftime. That's just how it is. Not a ton of super cheap midfielders. Tahith Chong, if he plays, I don't think that's that bad. Like he's done pretty good in limited minutes. Any other punts down here? Sean Longstaff, he scored last Newcastle game. He's all right, I suppose. I think there's really nothing. It's gonna be a hard slate for value, I feel like. Hopefully that we see some rotation though. It'll bring someone to the fold. But I don't know if it's gonna be any of these guys. Stone, 3K, Harrison Reed. That's not a bad last man in. You take set pieces sometimes if Pereira gets subbed. That's all right. Defenders. The big one's Kieran Trippier. Big decision on the slate. Do you play him for 7K? 7K is cheaper than I thought he'd be, honestly. I think that's a big decision. Like, there's just so many good attackers that it's whether you want to go there or not. And that's one of them. Estupinian, like, look at that, 18 points. He was playing like that center back hybrid role. If we see him at wing back, it's even more insane. I think he's the best defender on the slate for 1K cheaper than Trippier on a favorite. So, love Estupinian. Zinchenko's not bad. I feel like he should be a little bit cheaper. He's all right though. I feel like a lot of people just go Estupinian on Trippier though. Love a bit of Jedi Robinson. Solid defender. He just gets there. He's a good play. Everton's not a matchup to be scared of either. Any cash if he's at right wing, that's not bad. If he's at right back, I'm not interested in him. Tede had a monster game in the cup. He's all right. If I like him a lot more than Castagna. I think he offers a lot more attacking wise. Here's Toffolo. Like he splits Blakely. I don't think that's that bad, honestly, 3,900 for set pieces. You just worry how many is he going to have against Arsenal? And it's a valid concern for sure. Eric Mitchell or Klein? Mitchell a lot more than Klein for sure. That's a good play against Sheffield United at home. I like that. 3,400 Dan Burn. I played him in the FA Cup and he did me well. Don't know if I'd go back to that. There's Castagna. He's this cheap because he just doesn't do anything, I feel like. He's all right, I suppose, is a value play, but nothing more. Livramento, if he starts, that's not that bad. There's several pretty cheap, interesting fullbacks. There's Jaden Bogle, another one. There's plenty of guys to go to. I hope it's Nuno Tavares instead of Hoffala. That'd be a lot more intriguing. That 800 difference is pretty big, and he takes set pieces over, or takes set pieces too. Ekman Hazic, 2,900. That's not a bad punt. Like he can get there. Pair him with Hammer, hope for a goal. I like these cheap Brighton center backs, Webster or Julio. Those are pretty good punts. Brighton, like, you look how many passes they get. You get like a point in passes, or even 2 points. I like those a lot. And not in love with the rest, really. A lot of ways to go here. A lot of different teams to stack. Goalie, it's like it's just a punt, really. Like it's not a ton of edge there. Play who fits the rest of your build. What I always say. Like don't play a goal dependent striker against your goalkeeper probably, unless like even that works sometimes. If you go for like an onslaught build, like Matt Turner, and just stack Arsenal and hope you get like a million shot on goals. Like really, any goalkeeper can work. There's a lot of variance between them. Like your goalkeeper can make 12 saves or he give up 5 goals, and it just ends up like that sometimes. All right. In terms of a core, you go Saka. I think you go Eze. And I think you go Estupinian. From there, you could maybe go Trippier. You could maybe go Doughty. That'd be tough, but I think, yeah, maybe you couldn't. Like, yeah, like Trippier versus Doughty, I think will be a big decision. I'm playing these three, I think, more likely than not. And then from there, might have to mix and match. And then make a decision on the day depending on what value I see for my cash build. We'll have all of those guys in GPP for sure. Um, I think that's it, guys. Make sure to, like I said earlier, check out our website. Decide if you want to join our Discord. I'm excited to be back making Premier League YouTube videos, and they should be fast and coming. Or yeah, a lot of them, I guess. I mean to say, now that we get a more consistent amount of Premier League games, and good luck, guys. Hope everyone has a good day. Bye.